Good evening and welcome to the Dollar Dogs and Beer podcast. I am your host Andrew, and joining me tonight is Joe. How are you doing tonight, Joe?
Andrew, I'm hanging in there, man. I'm not too upset about the past week for my club. So
No, it was a really good week for the Cubs. I knew you were going to be pretty happy with the end result of everything.
yeah, I'm
Um,
telling you what, man. We the Cubs are doing good, and Javi is playing cricket. So can't get much better than that. So
I still can't believe well, yes, actually, from watching him, being forced to watch all the WTF clips you've sent us in the group chat ever since we started doing the podcast last year. Yes, I can absolutely believe he'd swing at a bouncing slider because that seems to be one of his favorite pitches to try and swing at. Because why the hell not? I mean, I got nothing, man. That's just every time. Jason is a late scratch tonight. He's dealing with a migraine. So, Jason, bud, hope you feel better. We'll have you back on next week for the full staff. So, Joe, what are you drinking tonight?
well, since the Cubs did so well with this last week, I'm back with the acronym brewery, ABC, anything but Corona. It's a nice Mexican lager. It's with sea salt and lime, and it's it started out, as I said last week. It was their Mexican Cinco de Mayo trick, and it's their top mover right now. So
Nice.
if you're in the Akron area, check out Acronym Brewing, and hat tip to family friend Aaron Crookshank and the boys. Nice work here.
Yeah. Yeah. Akron, Ohio is not a place I'm probably going to be near anytime soon, but I will definitely check them out if I happen to be out there. For me tonight, Joe, I'm going with a classic, one that I've always liked. I've got the from Great Lakes Brewing. I've got the Edmund Fitzgerald Porter tonight. Nice dark beer for what's hopefully not going to be a dark week for the Braves this week, like it was the last time we had to deal with the Mets. So,
and somewhere Gordon Lightfoot is smiling. Nicely done.
absolutely, absolutely. All right, so let's kick this off. The biggest story of the week broke last week, and honest to God, this has got to be one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard. As more and more and more comes out about this, Fernando Tatis Jr. was suspended 80 games by Major League Baseball for performance-enhancing drug use. He tested positive for clostebol, which is a performance-enhancing substance in violation of Major League Baseball's Joint Drug Prevention and Treatment Program. The suspension is effective immediately, so he will not play in the majors this season. If the Padres make the playoffs, the 80 games will be subtracted from any playoff games, so we don't actually know when his return date will be next season because we'll have to see how far if the Padres make the playoffs, which seems like probably likely, but you never know. Tatis said, quote, "It turns out that I inadvertently took a medication to treat ringworm that contained clostebol. I should have used the resources available to me in order to ensure that no banned substances were in what I took. I failed to do so. I want to apologize to team owner Peter Seidler, AJ Preller, the entire Padres organization, my teammates, Major League Baseball, and fans everywhere for my mistake. I have no excuse for my error, and I would never do anything to cheat or disrespect this game I love. I've taken countless drug tests throughout my professional career, including on March 29th, 2022, all of which have returned negative results until this test." Padres GM AJ Preller said, quote, "He's somebody that from the organization standpoint we've invested time and money into. When he's on the field, he's a difference maker. You have to learn from the situations. We were hoping that from the offseason to now that there would be some maturity, and obviously with the news today, it's more of a pattern, and it's something we've got to dig a bit more into. I'm sure he's very disappointed, but at the end of the day, it's one thing to say it. You've got to start showing by your actions. I think what we need to get to is a point in time where we trust him. Over the course of the last 6 or 7 months, that's been something that we haven't really been able to have there. I think from our standpoint, obviously he's a great talent. He's a guy we have a lot of history with and do believe in, but these things only work when there's trust both ways." So, Joe, clostebol, it's a derivative of testosterone and an anabolic steroid that can be used for also for ophthalmological and dermatological use. It has been banned by the World Anti-Doping Agency. If it sounds familiar, it's because it's one of the primary performance-enhancing drugs that East Germany used in their state-sponsored Olympic doping scandal that they ran for, I don't even remember how many years. Colostopol is not used in any ringworm treatments in the U.S. or Canada. That should be noted. There were 2 players previously that had been suspended for using it. That was Dee Gordon and Freddie Galvis. Boy, those are 2 names you probably haven't heard in years, especially Galvis. Tatis won't be eligible to play for the Dominican Republic in the World Baseball Classic next spring. Some comments from teammates from Manny Machado, quote, "Hearing that he's going to get suspended for 80 games and not be part of what we're trying to accomplish here is something you don't want to hear before a game and don't want to hear overall. It's just a terrible thing. We were waiting to get him back and for him to be a spark plug." Mike Clevenger said, quote, "It's the second time we've been disappointed with him," referring also to the motorcycle accident and the broken wrist. "You hope he grows up and learns from this and learns that it's about more than just him right now." Joe Musgrove said, quote, "He's a young kid. He's going to learn his lessons or whatnot. But ultimately, I think you got to start showing a little bit of remorse, and you got to start showing us that you're committed to it and you want to be here." And then just today, his dad, Fernando Tatis Sr., opened his mouth and on the midday show, which airs in the Dominican Republic. And to be honest, Joe, I think his dad probably actually made things worse instead of better. He acknowledged that his son made a mistake in not realizing the medication contained a steroid, a direct violation of the drug policy, but added that it could have been managed better by the league, though he didn't get into specifics about how, which I'm not sure how it could have been managed any differently, considering the drug abuse policy is pretty much cut blank and dry. There's not really any wiggle room in there. He said, quote, "I don't think there was reason to destroy the image of a player over something as minor as that. This is a catastrophe what has taken place, not just for Junior, but for all of baseball. All of baseball. There are millions of fans who are going to stop watching baseball. No, they're not. It's a total disappointment for Dominican fans throughout the world, for something so insignificant that wasn't worth it. It's a topical. What came out positive in Junior's body is something that doesn't give you strength, first of all, doesn't amplify your weight training regimen. That second, doesn't have any testosterone. That third, doesn't contain absolutely anything that would give you an edge in the game. What has occurred is a catastrophe for baseball." So Joe, what he used was trophodermin spray. It's a spray that's made it's made in Mexico. It's not manufactured in the U.S., not manufactured in Canada. Trophodermin contains both colostopol as well as neomycin, which is an antibiotic. And this is directly from the manufacturer's website. It's indicated in cases of abrasions and erosions and skin ulcerative lesions. Its formula is also indicated for the treatment of nipple fissures, anal fissures, burns, infected wounds, and healing delays. Joe, did you hear anything fungal related in that list of prescribed reasons to use said spray?
I mean, possibly the skin lesions at the top there, maybe, depending on what type of but the fact that there's an antibiotic in the medication and not an antifungal, it's kind of defeats the purpose, of trying to make that argument. Yeah, this is a mess, man. I really do. I agree with you. I think Pops messed this up even worse for him by trying to use a bunch of words together to try and make it sound better, and make it sound too as if like he's the only thing keeping the sport alive. Like, come on, dude. That part just drives me crazy. But there's 1,000 players that people are watching for right now. Shohei Ohtani, Mike Trout, when he's healthy. Aaron Judge is having a phenomenal year right now. Like,
even looking at the young guys, you've got Acuna, you've got Juan Soto, who the Padres now have instead.
Yeah,
it's not like he's the only young superstar stud of the bunch right now.
Yeah, I mean it's ridiculous that it's going to be that bad for the game. I really took notice of Musgrove's comments. I thought they were spot on, and Clevenger's as well. I think you have to look at this and go, you've already missed more than half the year because you went out on a motorcycle and broke your wrist. And I get accidents happen, but still, you've already missed half the year. And you're going to try and pull some bull crap about using an antibacterial spray on something that's a fungal issue, number one. And number two, it's called an anabolic steroid. Hello. Anabolic means it builds up.
Exactly.
For those looking for a medical explanation, anabolic is building up, catabolic is breaking down.
Perfect explanation.
And, so, this to me, this is just ridiculous. And I agree with Musgrove. This kid's got to start acting like he gives a crap about anything but himself, because that's what his behavior this year shows you. Is it's about Tatis Jr. and this could end up being the new Madden curse. I mean, he's on the cover last year, and then he has and he's the talk of the league, and then 2 bonehead decisions, and now if he comes off the suspension and he doesn't produce, you're talking about a guy with potential Hall of Fame capability, who everybody's going to say, oh, maybe he was never good.
So, Joe, he's been in the league now for 3 years. He's been hurt more than a few times. Take a guess in 3 seasons. Now, granted, the shortened 2020 season's in there, so that kind of tweaks these numbers a little bit. But take a guess how many games he's played in 3 seasons.
Okay, well, 2020 was 60 games. I'm sure he didn't play all of those. I don't know, maybe 100, maybe 120 at most.
273. He had 84 his rookie year. He had 59 to 60 in the shortened season, but he only played 130 last season because he had nagging injury after nagging injury between his back and his shoulder. I mean, remember, they moved him into the outfield last year to try and reduce the wear and tear from playing shortstop. So,
yeah, that number makes more sense. I wasn't taking into account 19. I was thinking 20, 21 in this year. That makes more sense now.
No worries. But for a guy who came up in 2019 and he's only played 273 games over 3 seasons and won't play in his 4th season at all, I mean, that's really bad, man. It's not showing long-term reliability to your club. It's not, it's not showing anything.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to, I think, poo-poo what could happen going forward. I think this is a gut check for him. This is, do I care more about having a successful career? Do I care more about winning than I do about whatever, inhibitions I have on a Saturday night? Is this the point where he turns things around? I mean, Harper is somebody that I was not a huge fan of for the longest time. I just didn't care for the bravado. I didn't, he got hurt some. He just seemed to have way too much arrogance, and then he became a nicer, fun guy to root for, in the last couple of years, because he matured a hell of a lot. So I mean, hopefully that's what happens with Junior, but
yeah, it's definitely been one hell of a change with Harper, right? That's I still don't like to root for the guy because he plays for a division rival, but he's definitely not the hateable guy he was in Washington. That's for sure.
No, I mean, I was in, I was on the MVP train with Jason last year, and I never thought I would be on the MVP train for Bryce Harper.
Yeah, I get that. Even I'm still not so sure about that one, but hey, doesn't matter. So, the first thing that came out was that this that this ringworm was from a haircut, which I'll admit I at first dismissed as absolute garbage. I'm glad I talked to my wife about this because apparently fungal infections from haircuts do happen a lot
Yeah,
more often than most people think. Now, it's probably because I don't go to like, a hair salon, nail salon, and I go to a damn barber shop. And I
right.
could tell you this, our wonderful sponsors from Whiskey and Blade, Chad and Johnny, everything's sterile in there, man. They don't screw around with anything. I've never once been worried about picking up an infection to my hair while I was in there, or to be honest, any other honest to God barbershop I've ever been in my life. So, be that as it may, I'm just, I'm just not buying this. And like, you're using something. You're a professional athlete. You know that you are restricted under your league's anti-drug policy, and you know that it is your responsibility, not anybody else's. It is your responsibility to make sure everything before you ingest, rub it on your skin, or anything else is approved for your use. And that includes supplements, because how many times have we seen like NFL players in particular, take some kind of a supplement that they thought was okay, but actually contained a small trace amount of a banned substance? Like, you're a professional athlete. This is your responsibility. All you have to do before you use it is call your team's medical director or anybody on the medical staff, and they can look at the ingredients and say, yeah, this is okay, go ahead. Or, oh, no, there's something in this you absolutely cannot have. Don't touch it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean the big problem when you get into the supplement side of this is supplements are not well regulated.
No.
So they mix crap in even if it's not on the label, and it's one of those things where you have to be careful with that. You have to look for, I think USP is the certification for those type of things, and that's what you
Yes.
should be looking for that.
Yeah,
But
USP is a United States Pharmacopoeia. I haven't left. I haven't not been a pharmacy tech long enough to forget that.
right. So I think that's important. And I think also too, um, it's just kind of like, it's like the college athlete who says that I didn't know this. You are sat down as a college athlete and given hours of compliance talks. The only way you don't know it is if you choose to forget it on the college level. And so um, for Junior to not really have a great excuse here is kind of ridiculous, but it's also kind of, he didn't have a good excuse for why he was on a motorcycle this close to the season starting. So
What do you want to bet the Padres are kicking themselves that they didn't have a clause included that says you will not ride motorcycles in the off season anymore in that huge contract extension he signed?
yeah, I mean, some of this stuff too. I mean, I'm harping on Junior quite a bit here, but some of the stuff is just things happen. But
Yeah.
um, you know, I, I don't think the Padres had any clue this was coming, because they would not have gotten rid of their top shortstop prospect if they had any thought that Junior was going to be suspended. So
Yeah, I was speculating in the group chat that perhaps the Padres had an inkling something might happen, and that's why they did go all in. But then when I read the quotes from the GM and from the manager, I'm like, no, they got blindsided by this as much as the rest of us did. So, geez, just absolutely nuts. Definitely not the news we were expecting to hear from Fernando Tatis last week. I was more expecting, hey, rehab's going. We should hopefully, maybe see him come up sometime in the next week or two, finally make his, season debut. Nope.
no,
Nando, we're not going to see you until 2023. And also, do me a favor, tell your dad to shut the hell up, because he's an idiot and has no idea what he's talking about. About the only thing in that huge rant he had is that, yeah, I agree. It's a disappointment for Dominican fans. Absolutely. And there might be some Dominican fans who get turned off by the game. But let's also remember Tatis Jr. is also not the only Dominican-born player playing in MLB right now. So
Right. That's the big thing too.
yeah. Don't get me wrong. Your kid's great. No doubt about it. He's not the only one, though, right now.
No.
All right, Joe. So we had some more news break earlier today. You want to light us up on that one?
Yeah, let's get this going here. The Texas Rangers fired their manager Chris Woodward this afternoon. It's their fourth consecutive year with a losing record. They were 51-63 going into games today. He will be replaced by the third base coach Tony Beasley. Rangers president of operations John Daniels said Chris Young and I had a very difficult task of informing Woodward of our decision today. In his tenure as manager, Chris worked tirelessly under what was at times some difficult circumstances, dedicated and passionate in his efforts, and that was appreciated. He was representing the organization with class and dignity. And the Rangers are going to try to continue to develop. I think this year they were better than they had been last year, but not good enough. I mean, Woodward's career record is 211 and 287. The Rangers haven't been above 500 the whole time. You spent $500 million and you got nothing. So a lot of teams, some of these smaller market teams or teams that are underperforming, they go out and nab a couple of big free agents. That doesn't fix all the other holes you have. I think, we talked about the Rangers in the preseason, and they didn't really scare you from a pitching standpoint. You could have the best middle infield in the entire world, but if your pitchers are giving up home runs, it doesn't matter.
Right.
So they spent a lot of money, yeah, but they didn't spend it, and split it out and spend it where they needed to spend it.
We talked about it last year, Joe. The Cardinals almost swept the Golden Gloves last year and got bounced in the first round. Not even the first round. They got bounced in the wild card game because when you give up home runs, it doesn't matter how many Gold Glove defenders you have.
Well, and part of that too with the Cardinals last year is they were so hot for a long time, they just cooled off at the wrong time.
Yeah, that's true.
That was a big part of that. They had some pitching, but they didn't have what they needed, obviously.
No.
They had Seager, they have Simeon, but that just, again, that doesn't replace and fix the problems you have throughout the rest of the lineup and in the rotation. So, that just goes to show you need coaching on top of the talent. So,
and here's an example of coaching that's just not working. 6-24 record in one-run games this season. Second worst single-season winning percentage in such finishes since 1900. I didn't happen to see who is worse, but Jesus, 6-24 is terrible. That's yeah. Yeah, I got nothing. I mean, the dude was making very, very slow steps forward, but when you drop $500 million, you kind of have to get a little bit of a quicker step in there. So,
I think, the manager is the fall guy here, but management and the GM need to do better in putting a product on the field that can be competitive. I mean,
yeah,
there's that word again, competitive. I heard that enough times in the last, 6 months, 9 months. That word gets thrown around a lot, but it's on the GM and ownership and your operations guys to put a team on the field that can be competitive.
Well, and what drives me nuts too, with teams like the Rangers, I understand going after one big free agent guy, perhaps, because that kind of excitement also helps drive up ticket sales, which increases revenue across the board, yada, 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 gives you more money to spend on more players. Problem is, when you dump $500 million into two players, what are you doing with the rest of that roster? You're better off taking some of that money that you dumped into two guys and spreading it out on more guys that might not be superstars, but are above average to good level players that can make a much more immediate contribution to the team than just two guys are able to do, period. So yeah, you're right. There's a lot of issues with the organization top to bottom. It's not just the manager, although he certainly wasn't helping anything. All right, so moving on. Rays starting pitcher last night, Drew Rasmussen, lost a perfect game in the ninth inning against the Orioles. First baseman Jorge Mateo hit a double on the first pitch of the ninth. That just kind of sucks. But then it gets worse. Mateo scored on a Rasmussen wild pitch, which also ended his shutout. So his final line for the night, which is still a hell of a line, 8 1/3 innings, 1 hit, 1 earned run, no walks, 7 strikeouts, 87 pitches, 62 of which went for strikes, and he threw a first pitch strike to 15 out of 27 batters. Not bad.
No, that's a great line. It's a good start. It's unfortunate that it came unglued there at the end, but
yeah. And here's the thing. Remember last year how the Rays beat the Orioles 18 out of 19 games?
Yeah.
It was 10-9 this year in favor of the Rays. So the Orioles played them much tougher this year. Just as we've been noting, the Orioles, doing much, much better this season, even though they were idiots and traded their closer Mancini at the deadline for 4 freaking pitcher prospects. Anyway, so speaking of perfect games, today, Joe, is the exact 10-year anniversary of the last perfect game, which was thrown by Felix Hernandez August 15th, 2012. Crazy that it's been that long. There have only been 23 perfect games all time, one of which came in a World Series game, Don Larson, the most unlikely man to ever throw a perfect game probably in the history of baseball. In 2012, we had the year of the perfect game in which there were 3 perfect games thrown, and also the only season in baseball history where there were 3 thrown in a single year. And they were thrown by Philip Humber, because, he was also highly likely to throw one, Matt Cain, and Felix Hernandez, of course. Since the last perfect game, we've had 38 no-hitters thrown. The all-time record of no-hitters thrown in between perfect games was 42. That happened twice. Between Charlie Robertson's perfect game, April 30th of 1922, and Don Larson's World Series perfect game, 10-8 of 56, and then Catfish Hunter, 5-8-68, and Len Barker, 5-15-81. So, Joe, some factors why we maybe haven't seen any in such a long time. Bad luck, because, look at last night. Since 1901, there have been 33 instances in which a pitcher lost a perfect game in the ninth inning or later. Amazingly, 8 of those instances, which is 24.2%, have occurred in just the last 10 seasons. Damn. You also have batters going deeper, so hitters work the count a lot more. In 2012, the average plate appearance was 3.82 pitches, and this year it's up to 3.91. Percentage of pitches thrown in full counts was only 4.6% in 2012, and it's all the way up to 5% this year. We also have pitchers have changed the way they attack hitters. Fastballs are thrown harder, but not as frequently. Unfortunately, pitchers don't command their breaking stuff nearly as well. We're long gone from the days of like Greg Maddux, who could, literally paint any corner you could imagine, and also was just an expert at starting it right here on the corner and then slowly moving out a little more. So by the end of the game, he made Angel Hernandez look like a freaking genius, if Angel would have been umpiring back then. Think about this. Percentage of pitches thrown for strikes since 2008. Fastballs, 51.8% of the time, breaking 44.7%, off speed 40.7%. I mean, those aren't good numbers. And then you got Dave Roberts, who's pulled pitchers that have perfect games on the line, both Rich Hill and Clayton Kershaw. So, possible symptom of pitcher protection. So, Joe, do you think we're going to see the next perfect game within 5 years, or do you think it's going to be longer than that?
I could easily see it being longer than that. I could see it, going on for a long time. I don't know. I think it's what's frustrating about this is we have specialized pitching so much now that the thought of a guy having a complete game is just not likely.
Yeah.
You're really only looking for starters most of the time now to go 6, maybe 7 if they're really firing off well, and then you're bringing in a setup guy and a closer, and it's like if the guy can still throw, let him throw. We had more of the perfect games and more no hitters probably back when pitchers were pitching every third day.
Yeah.
Um,
Now, granted, the overall hitting talent was significantly less, and you also have the dead ball era in there too, which certainly helped things.
right. I mean, that being said, I think again we've specialized pitchers way too much. I think we've this might come off wrong, but I feel like we coddle arms too much. Honestly, if the guy can throw, if obviously if he's losing ability, that's one thing. But to have people on pitch counts, other than when you're bringing them back from injury, is kind of stupid. Because
Well,
I mean, like if you have a guy who throws, say your cutoff is 100, okay, that's just the pitches he's thrown in the actual course of the game. That doesn't include it. Let's say it's 6 innings. That doesn't include 36 warm-up pitches if you count the pitches between innings. It doesn't count the 30 pitches he's throwing in the bullpen to warm up before the game. So you're really, to have magic numbers and pitch counts, it's like maybe you should start that when they're warming up in the bullpen then if you're that concerned about it. That's one of my pet peeves with pitching is we specialize it too much. We pull guys, a little early sometimes.
well, and that's where advanced metrics have gone maybe a little bit crazy. That third time through the order, the jump in average is so large compared to the first 2 times that managers almost seem terrified to let guys face the third time through. And I wonder if it would help by cutting back the number of arms you're allowed to carry on the active roster, forcing managers to let their starters pitch longer.
I think that would certainly improve that side of the equation. I do see the point of having some of these other guys and having maybe a few more pitchers, but I don't know that I like what do they have 13 now, 12 or 13 on the roster. I think
It's capped at 12. It started higher to start the season. I think it's down to 12 or 11. I think that you're allowed to carry on the active roster. Give me a sec. I'll look that up.
Yeah. It's 12 or something like that now, and sometimes that might be too much. That's sort of my pet peeve with pitching, and I the amount of information that hitters have available to them now is obviously another factor here where they're studying these guys on the team flight from San Francisco back to New York or wherever they're going. They're studying the next guy the whole time on the flight. So there is some of that where that factors into it too. That third time through the lineup, there's just so much information available to hitters now. So much footage available, so they know when they go up to the plate in the first inning and then in the, whatever, that they kind of know what they're getting within a couple mile an hour and a couple of inches either way.
So let me see here. It looks like 13. Yeah. So yeah, it was at 14 earlier this year, and then it dropped to 13 on your 26-man roster. Yeah, that's right. Because that got it was supposed to drop from 14 to 13 back at the end of May, and the MLBPA and MLB agreed to push it back to June. So
Right.
it's 13 right now. You can only carry half your active roster you can only carry half as pitchers. So, I think doubleheaders, because you can have the 27th man for doubleheaders, teams tend to add one extra pitcher for those, and that's understandable because you got to throw 2 games. Yeah, I've like doubleheaders, no problem whatsoever with teams carrying an extra pitcher or two just to get through 2 games in a day. But what if we say, how much of that dynamic changes when you drop that? Let's say you drop that number down to 12. So 5 starters, 7 bullpen guys.
Yeah,
Just
I don't know. It's certainly something interesting. I do think that the Dave Roberts stuff that you mentioned is pitcher protection more than anything else.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm still mad at him
I
for
have
doing
no
that to
doubt
Kershaw.
that Kershaw could have managed and probably
Yeah.
gotten that no hitter. It was a perfect game, right? Yeah.
Perfect.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Kershaw probably could have had that if not for coddling an arm that already threw 20 more pitches than you took him out at in the bullpen warming up. So
Just that just pisses me off so
I
much.
I
I feel so bad for Kershaw. And I don't like Kershaw, but I can respect his talent because he's a hell of a pitcher.
Yeah, I mean, he's made major adjustments in the last year, so he's really improved his game. Added a heavier curveball and a slider to really expand his ability. Something you'll see a lot of these pitchers do now going forward.
Well, yeah, I mean, he can't pump 97, 99 anymore like he used to. So, he's adapting. That's what good pitchers do. So, yeah, we'll see going forward. Here's my last question for perfect game, guys. Joe, do you think the next one will be thrown by a 1-2 starter, or do you think it's going to be that random 3 to 5 guy who just catches fire at the best possible time in his career?
Probably that 3 to 5 guy. I mean, those are the guys who are, it's you're not going ace against ace at that point. So,
Yeah.
um, a guy could get lucky. A guy could be, called up for a game, a spot start, and you're not familiar with the guy, something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of think it's probably going to be that as well. Probably more of a 3 to 5 guy. So, all right, Joe. Since Jason's off this week, we'll skip down on the farm. What's your release the good story for this week?
So, real quick, I'm gonna just go back to something we talked about last week. We talked about Landis Sims and the Challenged Athletes Foundation. I did a little bit of looking up some things and going over stuff here for you. Challengedathletes.org is the website for them to find out more about them. Their mission is to provide opportunity and support to people with physical challenges. A lot of it is through athletics. They try to provide athletic opportunities and make sure that they can have an active lifestyle. Given the concerns about obesity and all of that, and the mental aspect of a lot of things. They fund equipment, they fund sporting competitions. So just wanted to touch back on that for a second before I get to this week's story. They've used their funds to, again, buy wheelchairs and help with funding of prosthetics and things like that. So I just wanted to touch base, review that again. Landis Sims was the guy we mentioned last week. There's a documentary out there. I think it's on Prime Video. I have to look at some of the other places. We can put that up on the page here in the next day or so. But just wanted to go back over that quick. But the release to good story this week, a scary moment in a Little League regional tournament last week as we get ready for the World Series tournament, which I think starts this week, if I'm not mistaken. So Caden Shelton is a pitcher for a Texas team. They were playing in Waco in the regional. Lost control of a fastball and was facing a young kid Isaiah Jarvis, his nickname is Zay. So Zay Jarvis from Tulsa, Oklahoma. The pitch hits Jarvis's helmet, causes him to drop to the ground. Pretty scary stuff, particularly at any point we see that. But when you talk about young kids, young 12-year-olds, that's definitely a concern. Jarvis was okay, got down to first base, and Shelton for his efforts. And we see this again. We see this all the time when we see headshots in the majors more often. But the pitchers are absolutely distraught. They didn't want to do that. Clearly, Shelton didn't want to do that. Clearly, it was a matter of losing control there. Jarvis noticed that when he got to first and time was called, went over to the mound, gave Shelton a big hug and said, "Hey, you're doing good. I'm fine. Don't worry about it. Let's go." And that was really, really a great story in the midst of a lot of things, obviously. And that really, I saw that video and I'm like, oh man, who's cutting onions? Jeez. That was really, really heartwarming, really touching. To see, okay, I've gotten to first. I'm time's been called. I'm good. He needs to know that I'm good so that he can continue to compete. And that was really, really touching and a really good story for this week's Release to Good.
And it's just the epitome of what Little League is all about. You and I both played Little League. That's good sportsmanship. That is what they drilled into us. Play hard between the lines, but it's still all about being a good sport to the other team. Now, if you happen to hit a home run off one of your buddies on another team, it's okay to rub it in his face afterwards, but be respectful during the game. But yeah, truly, Joe, I think that might be one of the most heartwarming stories we're going to see all year. When he went out just to give the pitcher a hug, I'm like, I was breaking down, man. It really reminded me of last year when Webb hit oh my God, the Mets outfielder. I'm blanking. Anyway, when Webb accidentally hit the Mets outfielder in the head.
Pilar.
Yeah.
Pilar.
And you could clearly see it wasn't an intentional hit. It definitely wasn't intentional, and you could see how shaken up he was. And to be honest, I don't even know if he was legally allowed to be lifted from the game at that point, but the Mets didn't, argue when Snit came out to pull him out of it because he was clearly too shaken to pitch after that. He had to be taken directly off the field and was just gushing blood because as you and I are very well aware of, head wounds are they just bleed and bleed and bleed and bleed and bleed, even though they're usually fairly superficial and not that bad. They just like to bleed forever. So that I just love seeing that. Like I said, being a former Little League guy, I just touched my heart. I'm glad to see that there's still those good values are still being instilled in the kids.
Definitely.
All right, Joe. So the Cubs had a hell of a week, and it didn't start with the Field of Dreams, but we're going to start with the Field of Dreams because once again, for the second year in the row, MLB knocked the production of this thing out of the park. Take it away, man.
Yeah, I mean, I was excited last year. Obviously, we all were. That was, Storybook with Kevin Costner coming out of the cornfield and all of that. That was Storybook stuff. And this year lived up to the billing too. So Cubs won this game 4-2. We'll do the recap here first. They used the energy of the moment in all of the warm-ups and all the festivities to break out in the first inning, all with 2 outs. Wisdom hit by pitch, Seiya with an RBI double, Nico had an RBI single, Ian had a 2 RBI double, and that got the ball rolling. They were up 3-0 early. In the bottom of the first, Jonathan India was hit by a pitch from Drew Smiley. Jonathan India, I found out later, was actually airlifted to the hospital after the game. He took it right off the front of the shin, and there was a ton of swelling in there. They were really concerned about compartment syndrome and some other serious issues there. He is fine now, but that was a scary moment for him. So glad that he could pull through, and hopefully he can continue to be a solid piece for the Reds. And then Madrigal had an RBI single on the top of the fourth. Smiley is the story of this storybook night for sure. 5 innings, 4 hits, no runs, 2 walks, and 9 strikeouts. He went 5 innings on his daughter's 5th birthday, which was just even more special. And Brandon Hughes and Rowan Wick out of the bullpen in this game. Hughes 2 innings, no hits, no runs, 3 strikeouts. And Wick 1 inning, 2 strikeouts, no hits, no runs. So for the save. So, that was a great ball game. And it was nice to see the Cubs put it together for an entire game and get on top early and do a ton of hitting with guys in scoring position, which is something we've ragged on them for quite a while. The game itself, the festivities and things, bringing Griffey Jr. and Sr. out of the cornfield to have a catch in right center was really special, really fun to see.
I love that, not going to lie. I was wondering if they were going to do something like that. And Griffey Jr. and Sr., that was just perfect. I honestly, I think one of my favorite moments was seeing the hologram of Harry up in the broadcast booth, man, singing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game."
No,
I teared up.
A lot of Cubs Twitter was like, "Why did you do that?" And it's what's funny too is they interviewed Chip, I think, the next day, and he was like, "Well, he looks well fed." Now, whether that was well fed off of high quality food or that was full of Budweiser, we'll never know. But
probably both.
Yeah. And the other thing too, I thought Chip Carey said was funny was, that he was looking down, and he says sometimes I don't know if he's looking down or looking up. So, Cubs fans, Cubs Twitter was like, no. Please don't ever do this again. I listen to the CHGO Cubs guys a lot, and they were like, "No, please don't ever do this again."
I'm thinking that's probably just going to be a one-off. I'm sure they won't do that again, but I freaking loved it. Oh man, I hadn't heard about Chip's comments later. That's both unsurprising and absolutely brilliant, as is well befitting of the entire Carey family clan of sports broadcasters.
Yeah, it's really fun to hear those guys talk about that. And it's obviously Ray Liotta died this year, and that there was a nice tribute video that Kevin Costner did for him. And it was again a really nice night for a game, and a really nice, just a nice experience for the casual fan and for the fan of the game who watches on a regular basis.
And what a visually stunning game. Those uniforms were gorgeous on the field.
Except for the Reds off-white batting helmets.
Yeah, that was bad.
Those were hideous.
Bad.
I don't understand that at all.
It's just not hard to match white to white. I don't know why they had to be cream, especially the Cubs wearing cream that made literally no damn sense at all. But batting helmets aside, it was a beautiful game to watch. I thought there was plenty of contrast between the Cubbies cream and the pinstripes that the Reds wore, even though they both used the wishbone C. Granted, this is baseball. It's not continuous action like hockey or football or basketball where, yeah, you'd probably have trouble picking guys out if it was like that. But for baseball, it was perfect. And let's remember, Field of Dreams, that kind of field, everybody's coming out to play a pickup game. So everybody's going to be wearing home uniforms typically. It's not like everybody's going to, the most differentiate they might have is shirts versus skins. It's not. I know the Yankees had true road uniforms last year, but that's the Yankees. The Yankees are going to be stuck in tradition until the franchise eventually collapses under the ego of George Steinbrenner coming back from the grave to destroy his franchise that can't win another World Series because despite spending ridiculous amounts of money.
Boy, tell us how you really feel, man. Jeez. Yeah, I mean, and when you watch the Field of Dreams movie, I think every game they had was home uniforms in that movie. So like
It was.
it's not that big of a deal. Again, besides the cream batting helmets that made no sense. But again, the cornfield, all the movie factoids they throw in there that some of them and some of them you don't know. Yeah, it's just a lot of fun. Again, a fun experience, a fun. You can't help but get romantic about baseball, and you know, there was a clip that went out on Cubs Twitter where it was Pat Hughes, the voice of their radio broadcast, with the Field of Dreams movie score in the background, and that music just gives me chills no matter what I'm doing.
Oh yeah, yeah, and that's so many movies have absolutely iconic scripts. Field of Dreams is way up there, and that you hear those first couple notes, and you're like, Field of Dreams. It's like the beginning of Star Wars. You always know that's Star Wars. Or Jurassic Park. You always know that that's Jurassic Park. Field of Dreams is the exact same way. You know immediately what movie is coming on TV.
Absolutely.
You don't need the thing to pop up on your TV guide saying, "Hey, this is Field of..." Shut up! I already knew that. You're 30 seconds behind.
Right.
And hey, it was a good result for the Cubs. They came up with a win. That first inning, man, they came out on fire and were slashing the ball really well. Dude, I was really impressed. I mean, that's probably the most of a single Cubs game I've watched all season. I'll be completely honest with you, unless it was the Braves playing them. But I was really impressed. Seiya looked really good, man. I was particularly impressed with how well he played, and it was, as much crap as I gave Smiley, and I still will stand by what I said at the end of last year on Twitter during the World Series. I don't want to see Drew Smiley pitch another game in a Braves uniform. I was really glad to see him pitch so well during the Field of Dreams game.
Yeah, that was just so much fun. And you had, again, he was having a blast out there. His curveball is top notch, man. It's been working for him.
It's one of the best curveballs in the league when he can control it and it's on. The problem is he doesn't do that too terribly often. Just saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, just from the players, I kind of figured baseball would, do the players walking in through the cornfield just like last year. Please don't ever take that away. That was great too. So Joe, we're not going to have a Field of Dreams game next year. They're doing renovations on the stadium, and it will not be ready to go. So, what are you thinking? Is there another game you would like to see them do? Or, I know they're going to have the series in London, but was there anything else that you would like to see?
I mean, I could certainly see them doing, possibly one of the Negro League fields that's still around. I could see them, maybe doing the Sandlot at some point. That would be fun. Even if they make a Sandlot field somewhere, still
might need really tall walls to make that major league appropriate. But yeah.
Right. So something like that, and again, a Negro League stadium or, even, Doubleday Field in Cooperstown, something like, and even if that's just an exhibition game, um, sort of coming out of spring training or something like that, similar to what football does with the Hall of Fame game, kind of right in the beginning of the
Yeah.
preseason.
Yeah,
So
it's definitely something they could do. Um, Jason Lee rushing off. Field of Dreams game should have had the Black Sox jerseys or Boston Braves or Senators or New York Giants. Jason, something interesting. If they would do a Negro League game, like a Negro League throwback game down in one of the old stadiums, down in Birmingham or something like that, I would love to see something like Kansas City and Atlanta. So you could have Kansas City and the Monarchs, and Atlanta could do who was it? Was it the Black Crackers? And I think there was one other. There was one other big Negro League team in Atlanta that was very successful for a long time. I'm blanking on the name, Joe. It's in our group chat, and I can't find it. Give me a second here. I hate it when that happens.
yeah, I think, but Jason's on to something here too about some of the other games that teams they could either put in this game.
Black Barons.
Okay.
Yeah.
Put the New York Giants in this game. I mean, obviously San Francisco Giants with the old uniforms, or the Mets with the old Giant uniforms somehow.
Yeah, I would love to see that. I want to see the Field of Dreams continue, and I want it to be a chance for MLB and Nike to roll out more of these vintage uniforms. I love seeing them. They look really good. That damn swoosh put aside, which honestly, Nike, we all know you have the contract. For one game a year, you could take the fucking swoosh off the uniforms and there would be no problem. We would still know it's your uniform. But I would love to see that.
You could even run a, special promo in the game, an ad in the game, and that way everybody knows who did what.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many ways they could do it. Or just put it, it's an old Majestic jersey. Put it on the sleeve where the freaking maker's mark should be, not on the chest. That would also be cool, Jason. Have them wear an old version of a glove or a bat. I love those old style first baseman mitts. If I had an unlimited amount of money and an unlimited amount of space to put all sorts of memorabilia related crap, I would love to collect some of those old gloves. I just love how they look. I think the catchers, though, if you make them wear early era catching gear, they might have something to say about that, particularly the part where they don't have a mask. But that would be really neat to see them, take it that far back, or making some of these guys swing heavy lumber like Babe Ruth. Give them a 38-ounce bat and see how many guys can actually get that thing around on a 99-mile-an-hour fastball. Maybe even make that like a pregame contest. Give these guys either a Babe Ruth or a Julio Franco style bat and say, "All right, we're going to set the pitching machine to 99. Good luck." I would love to see that.
Yeah, I don't know too with stadiums. I don't know where if the natural, if that was something that was shot in an actual park or if that was just a stage setup. That would be something cool too to replicate that. Get Robert Redford involved in it and all of that.
Good old Roy Hobbs. I freaking love that movie.
I love that movie so much. My player in the show is Roy Hobbs. So,
that's honestly perfect. That is the perfect name for a player. I'm trying to look at where 2/3 of the scenes were filmed in Buffalo, mostly at War Memorial Stadium, built in 1937, demolished a few years after the film was produced. Buffalo's all-high stadium with post-production alterations stood in for Chicago's Wrigley Field. Additional filming took place at the New York and Lake Erie Railroad Depot as well. Is All High? I think All High Stadium, is that still open in Buffalo? Yeah, I think it's used for soccer now. It looks like soccer and lacrosse, but I'm sure they could get All High Stadium set up for for one baseball game. That would be pretty neat to see.
That would be cool. I think something in an iconic stadium like that would be cool. Um,
I
you
wish
know,
I wish the Polo Grounds was still up. Whenever I love, like, when me and Jason play MLB The Show, we don't usually play in the modern stadiums. We usually, do a Russian roulette style, pick a random historical stadium, which I think it's funny that Turner Field now counts as a historical stadium in that list. But I love playing in the Polo Grounds, and I gotta tell you, man, every time we're in the Polo Grounds, I completely scrap my normal defensive outfield lineup and put my fastest guy in center field because of all the ground they have to cover. Not gonna lie.
yeah,
Because I remember when we were playing either MLB The Show 19 or 20, I think, when Billy Hamilton was with the Braves. The only time I ever put Billy Hamilton in a starting lineup is because I needed his speed in center field. And you know what? It worked out pretty damn good for me because I was able to make some plays that I probably wouldn't have made with anybody else. Because I know Jason couldn't because the Phillies did not have a fast outfield that year. All right. So, Joe, what about the rest of the week for the Cubs? Quick recap for us.
yeah. We'll go with. I'll finish the Reds series and then go back to the beginning of the week and some things that happened there. Uh, Game 2, they won this game 7-2. Wilson and Happ went 2 for 4 and 2 for 5 respectively. Homers. Happ accounted for 4 RBIs and a run scored. So it's amazing what happens when they don't have to worry about whether they're going to play next. Where they're going to play next and what they're going to do. Sampson in this game ineffective. Newcomb and Hughes, 3 innings together. Those guys pitched and no hits, no runs. 6 strikeouts between them for those 3 innings. So a lot of great, solid work out of this bullpen. And Framil Reyes is somebody the Cubs picked up off of waivers last week from the Indians. He had a homer in Game 2. Game 3, 8-5 loss. Nico was 3 for 5 in this game. He has just been awesome as a hitter this year. His defense is fantastic. He is the long-term solution at short for the Cubs going forward, I think. Thompson it was bad in this one. Thompson has been good one start, bad the next one. So this was the bad one. An inning and 2/3, 2 hits, 4 runs, 3 walks, 2 strikeouts. He threw 70 pitches in that inning and 2/3. So really, really struggled a lot in this one. And the bullpen guys have been overworked, so they weren't much better. The Reds took the lead in the 7th, I think, of this game, and then Alexis Diaz came in. That's Edwin's brother. Edwin, of course, the closer in New York for the Mets. But Alexis Diaz is a rookie closer. He came in with the bases loaded and 1 out in the 8th inning and got a 5-out save. So he's learned from Big Brother pretty well here. So great, a good end of the series for the Reds getting that win. But the Cubs with this one and then the series here at the beginning of the week we'll get into next, really went from the basement where they were, I think, Monday, and now they're in 3rd place. Obviously, it's only a couple games between them, but hey, it's not the basement. So that was the Red series. Joey Votto, who I think you want to root for him, and he is has set the high bar now for most games by a Canadian-born player. But he was 0 for 13 in the series against the Cubs, and good riddance, buddy. So
yeah, you're never upset to see Votto be utterly ineffective for an entire series.
Yeah, I mean it
doesn't happen often.
No, it doesn't. And I think he's hitting around 210 or something like that right now. Not having the best year, obviously, and that's when you don't have protection in the lineup around you, they don't have to pitch to you. So
Well, not only that, he's 38 years old, man. I mean,
right.
Yeah, 210. Yeah, he's down to
Yeah.
210.
Yeah, and I mean, he is a class act on the field, class act off
Funny
the
too.
field.
He
He's
is
really
so funny. His interview during the Field of Dreams game, I was cracking up.
yeah. He's engaging and he's very self-deprecating, which is fun. I'm not disappointed in the futile week he had for the
I,
Reds.
I liked what John Smoltz said to him. He said, so you're in a unique position to have faced guys from my era, like me, Maddox, me and Maddox and Glavine and Randy Johnson, and then to see some of these crazy flamethrowers out there now, like Scherzer and DeGrom. And Votto said, so basically, you're very politely telling me that I'm old.
Yes,
absolutely.
So, So the beginning of the week here, and then I'll get into some comments by Jed Hoyer and some roster moves here. Game one, they win this one 6-3 against the Nationals. Keegan, again, this was good Keegan at the beginning of the week. 6 innings, 5 hits, 1 run, 3 strikeouts. Nelson Velasquez and Christopher Morel. Nelson went 3 for 4 with a homer and RBI. Morel went 2 for 4, a homer, 2 RBIs, and 2 runs. And that homer was a 2-run homer. Getting a lot of production out of some of these younger guys that are sticking around here, which brings me to before game 2 on Tuesday, Frank Schwindel was optioned down to Iowa. I don't know if he'll be back. I don't get the sense he will be, but you never know. That could be the end of a season worth of Frank Schwindel, which was still enjoyable and fun to watch.
I'm never not going to love Schwindy City. Never not going to love the guy.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens there. But, I think the approach now, we'll just get into some of the Jed stuff now because it's important the rest of the week here. He said that, yes, the media was talking about Wilson and Happ being traded, but he wasn't sold on it if the deal wasn't there. Again, we talked about this last week. I think the Soto deal had a lot to do with that. Once the Soto deal was done, San Diego was kind of the best trade partner for the both of them.
Yeah.
Other than the Mets who decided to do nothing with that, but.
Well, here's the thing. After stealing Pete Crow Armstrong last year, I don't think the Mets were very eager to talk to the Cubs, especially because they really didn't get a great return on their investment from Javi Baez. Well, might have had something to do with it.
I mean, they certainly didn't get a good return on the Javi side of it, but Trevor Williams this year, he's gone 20 consecutive innings without allowing a run for the Mets. And he was the other part of that deal from the Cubs to New York. And he's got a 1.16 ERA and 31 innings of relief. So the Mets or the Cubs may have gotten the better long-term deal. We'll still see that, we'll see when that happens. But the Mets are getting the better end of that deal now, at least this year. While we wait for PCA to move up the ladder. And again, Mets fans and Cub fans are probably both happy now that they don't have a cricket player on their team. So,
Yeah, I can't argue with that, honestly.
Yeah. So other comments from Jed is that, he's not planning to. He doesn't think this is going to be a long rebuild. Again, they're trying to say some of that stuff now. And I think after you kept Wilson and Happ, you kind of have to say that because Otherwise, we're kind of wondering what your next move is. With all of that, Nico is above average from a fielding standpoint. He's above average from a hitting standpoint. The kid had a slow start to his career, but when you were down in Double A or high Single A, and you get thrust into the starting lineup because Javi gets hurt, there's a lot of growing that has to happen there, and I think we're seeing the fruits of that growth now. And I think that changes the conversation for the Cubs, because as we talked about in the offseason, we were talking Correa and would they go after one of those guys, and now you could still go after one of those guys, but you're not desperate for one of those guys.
No, that's very true. Yeah, you don't have to go all in on the biggest free agent piece that's out there. And I know PCA, you're probably still looking 2-3 more years. He's only at Single A right now, so he'll be up eventually. He might even. I wouldn't even be surprised if he makes a spring training roster next year for you guys.
I certainly think he could. I think too, you have to see what they decide to do with pitching, what happens with some of the pitching that's going on here. You have to see sort of what happens with this pitching staff and some of the guys that are hurt. What kind of return do they get on some of those guys? Do they, try to sign some of these guys back, like a Smiley, things like that. And so there's a lot of unknowns here, but I think putting the focus now on the younger talent you have around you, sending Schwindel down is a sign of that. What also is a sign of that is it finally happened. Jason Hayward will not play another game for the Cubs this year, and he will be let go at the end of the year. They will pay him the $22 million to sit at home and be a great clubhouse guy.
Yeah. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if you see Hayward. Hayward's already said he wants to try and play one more year for somebody else. But after that, I would not at all be surprised if he becomes a coach for either the Cubs or the Braves. I don't think we'll see him with the Cardinals, but
no, and I think
the Cubs
too,
or Braves.
Rossi's got a great relationship with him, and if Rossi stays long term, which he very well could, and I'm not necessarily I'm less opposed to that than I was back in March, which is hard to believe, but
crazy as that might sound.
Yeah. Game 2 of the Nats series, they lose this 1-6-5. This was to quote Cody _CHGO with the CHGO guys. This was the Carl Edwards Jr. revenge game. He was a closer for the Cubs in the 16 World Series year, or a bullpen guy, and he ended up getting the save in this one in this game after they took the leads. Stroman went 5 innings, 5 hits, 4 runs, just not effective enough. Espino for the Nationals, 5 innings, 6 hits, 1 run, 5 strikeouts. He pitched really well. Keibert Ruiz for the Nationals played really well in this game, 2 for 3, 2 homers, 4 RBIs, 2 runs. So really productive games for them. Cubs had 7 singles in the 4-run 7th inning. And this depleted bullpen after trading half your bullpen at the deadline is coming back to bite them with some guys who can't go long in games. Coming back to our previous discussion about pitchers and going a little bit longer.
And how many times earlier this year in the podcast did you plea to David Ross to let some of these guys keep pitching?
I think every game of every series for like a month.
At least it might have actually been longer than that. I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah. Game 3, last game of this week, 4-2 win for the Cubs. The man of steel, Justin Steele, continues to be dominant. 6 innings, 8 hits, 2 runs, 9 strikeouts. Again, a big 7th inning with a Nico homer. Madrigal getting involved now, Ortega with a sac fly, Ian and Madrigal had RBI singles. So they're getting a lot of good quality hits, and Madrigal is making a case for being around. And maybe we'll get to see the end of this year here what he can bring to the club. So
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I'm glad we got the Cubs series out of the way early. And although Steele did beat us in the one time we faced him, he was a lot easier to to hit against earlier in the season than he has been lately. I've been very impressed.
Yeah, he's really been so much fun to watch. I think he's got like a 1.91 ERA in the last 7 starts or something like that. Something crazy.
That's
So
not bad.
yeah, something crazy in his numbers. It's insane. And what some of these guys like Morel have been able to do. Update on Kyle Hendricks on the injury front. He's been cleared to start rehabbing it at the facility in Arizona. Not really sure what his timetable is. I think if you're the Cubs, you got to look at just saying, you know what, get better for next year. There's no point.
Yeah,
We're
no
not
point for this
competing
year.
for anything.
No. Maybe if he's okay, bring him up for a spot start or two in September. But that's it.
Yeah.
All right. So, man, great week for the Cubbies. Really happy for you guys because you guys been due for a good week. Plus, to win the Field of Dreams game is just, the pièce de résistance. So, absolutely wonderful week for the Cubbies.
Definitely.
Jason forgot to send us notes for the Phillies, and I will completely confess that as I was getting the topic sheet ready, we weren't expecting Jason to go down with a migraine, and I did not take any notes in the Phillies. So the Phillies this past week, I'm not going to go game by game because I just don't have those notes, but it was a 500 week for them. They took 2 out of 3 from the Marlins. Wheeler beat Garrett in game 1, 4-1. Bilotti beat Alcantara in game 2, which Jason was actually at. It was a 4-3 win, and he was like, I can't believe that we stole one from Alcantara, as good of a season as he's having. And frankly, Jason, I can't believe you stole that one either, because Alcantara was, from the comments in the group chat, he was absolutely dominating the Phillies. And, Jason's like, you could tell there's a lot of people here that just aren't following all of baseball very closely right now because they're so mad that Alcantara is just dominating us, not realizing that he is a very strong candidate to win NL Cy Young this year. And I completely agree with that. Phillies fans do tend to live in the moment quite a lot, I've noticed. And then they dropped game 3, 3-0. Cabrera took the win. Gibson took the loss. And then the Mets series. They did manage to steal game 1, a 2-1 win in 10 innings. But after that, DeGrom took a 1-0 decision over Nola. Diaz picked up his 27th save in that one. And then on Sunday, they just got beaten down 6-0. So for the entire series, for those keeping track at home, the Phillies got outscored 8-2 for the whole series. I was really the DeGrom Nola game was actually one I was keeping a wary eye on because I was really curious to see how DeGrom was going to do against the Phillies after he dominated the Braves so hard. And yeah, it was more of the same, Joe. 6 innings, 2 hits, no walks, 10 strikeouts, and that was only 76 pitches too.
Yeah, DeGrom is definitely back to what we're hoping to see. Whether he can stay healthy long enough to get to the playoffs, we'll see how that works too. They're doing a good job of managing him. Again, we talked about the pitch count stuff. This kind of situation, you're managing what he's doing because of an injury. That's totally different from my frustration with pitch counts from before.
Yeah, exactly. 76 pitches, 57 for a strike, and he threw first pitch strikes to 14 out of 20. And here's the thing. Nola pitched a really good game himself. He was the only Philly pitcher used, probably because their bullpen was gassed by this point. 8 innings, 4 hits, 1 earned run, 1 walk, 8 strikeouts. That's going to win the game 9 times out of 10. And that was just the one time because he got nola'd and had no run support against the guy who usually gets DeGrommed because of no run support. So the fact that the Nola DeGrom game was a 1-0 is just not surprising, and it doesn't matter which team got the one.
No, that would have not shocked me either way how that would have gone.
All right. So, like I said, mixed bag week for the Phillies. Honestly, I don't think that they're Jason would be super surprised. The Mets are going to take the series this year. They're already up 11-4 overall, and there's only 4 games left. So the best the Phillies could do is push it to 11-8. And considering that series is in a week, is later this week, I don't know about that. Although they don't have to face DeGrom and Scherzer because they'll be facing Atlanta this week. Lucky me. Lucky me. All right, let's talk about happy things before we move on to what the hell is going to go for the Braves this week. Because this is, Joe, I don't know if you looked at the schedule yet, but the Braves are going through the meat grinder this week. So they started with one of those stupid mini series that Jason and I and you just absolutely love, those stupid 2-game series up in Boston. They took game 1 9-7 in 11 innings and game 2 8-4. So the season series was clinched by Atlanta 3-1. Game 1 was won on an Austin Riley go-ahead 2-run single in the 11th. He also hit his 30th home run of the season, which was a 2-run shot over the Green Monster, as well as an RBI triple. Good rebound by the offense. He only struck out 4 times this game after striking out a total of 19 times in Game 5 between DeGrom and the bullpen. One unfortunate piece of news, Orlando Arcia, who had been doing a pretty solid job filling in for Ozzie Albies, hurt his hamstring in the 10th and went on the IL almost immediately after the game. Snicker said, quote, "We heard it pop, and that's never good. And with your history doing athletic training, you know that very well." And then something good that at least happened out of this game. Austin Riley tied another Hank Aaron franchise record, became the fastest player to reach 30 home runs and 30 doubles in the season. In the 111th game of the season, Hank did that back in 1959. Here's the crazy thing, Joe. They both did that at 25 years of age. What are the odds? That's just crazy. And no, for the record, I love Riley. He's never going to hit enough home runs to catch Hank. Not going to happen. I just he reminds me so much more of early years Hank, when Hank would just smack the ball where it was pitched and just knock it all over the place, instead of later years Hank, when he realized he was the only heavy piece of offense after Eddie Matthews retired and needed to hit home runs to, make sure the Braves could score some runs. Then game 2, Kyle Wright, who traditionally does not pitch well against Boston, threw very well, 6 innings, picked up his 14th win of the year, leads the NL right now. So because of Arcia's injury, the Braves had to tap from Double-A for the second time this season, which is very unusual because the Braves haven't done that with any kind of regularity in years. I mean, before Harris and now Grissom, the only other guy I could think of going straight from Double-A to the majors was Rafael Furcal. So you know how long it's that I can think of that happening if I'm thinking of Furcal. So Vaughn Grissom, he was the top prospect. Now that he's up, I don't think he'll keep top prospect status, as he'll be a major leaguer now. Although when Ozzie comes back, they may send him back down. So I don't know how that's going to, top prospect or not. So in his major league debut, he hits a home run over the Green Monster for his first major league hit. That's not a bad way to say welcome to the show, kid. He also had a single, scored a second run later. Marcell Ozuna decided to actually hit the ball for a change and hit a 3-run homer. Grissom also stole a base, becoming the only player in Braves franchise history to hit a home run and steal a base in their first game. That was pretty cool. And then Kirby Yates, the guy we signed in the offseason, knowing we wouldn't get him back until probably August, made his season debut after returning from Tommy John surgery. First time he pitched in 724 days. So good to see him back. And now the Braves have 3 good closers on the roster and got rid of the closer that scared the ever-loving crap out of me and Will Smith. Then the Braves moved on and actually managed to go on the road to Miami and sweep the Marlins in 4 games. Not an easy feat to do because the Marlins love to play spoiler against the top teams in the East. They've been doing it for years. Game 1 was a 4-3 win. Game 2, which was a day-night doubleheader with Game 3, that was a 5-2 and a 6-2 win. And Game 4 was a 3-1 win. Very briefly, Game 1, our other stud rookie, Michael Harris II, had 2 hits, including the tie-breaking 2-run homer in the 8th to win the game. Olsen, his 22nd home run. Eddie Rosario, who's starting to get hot, had a single and a double. Riley also had a double. And this one, Joe, and this is going to feel so familiar for both of our teams from earlier this year, 12 hits for the Marlins, but 1 for 14 with runners in scoring position. Boy, we don't miss those days, do we?
I'm still living through those days. What the hell are you talking about?
Hey, April and May are long gone. That was the Marlins' 25th one-run loss of the season. One small note of concern, Odorizzi, who we gave up Will Smith for, only lasted 4 innings, 87 pitches. He hasn't made it to the 5th inning yet since we acquired him from the Astros. Pablo Lopez, 5 2/3, 2 runs, 4 hits, 4 strikeouts for the Marlins. Game 2, we had to call up another rookie guy. He's not a rookie. Chadwick Tromp actually played 2 or 3 seasons with San Francisco, so not a rookie. Chadwick Tromp was called up because Travis d'Arnaud had a minor injury, not bad enough to go to the IL, but they didn't play him at all for the weekend series, but they didn't want Contreras playing 4 games in a row. Understandable. So Tromp had 2 doubles, a single, and 3 RBIs in his first major league appearance of the season. Not bad. Olsen had a home run. Acuna and Grossman each had 2 hits. Kyle Mueller pitched really well, scattered 2 runs, 3 hits over 5, which is so much better than his last appearance, which was that absolutely terrible game against Texas where he got absolutely shelled. At this point, Joe, the Marlins had only scored 21 runs through their first 11 games in August. Not going to get it done. Game 3, the evening game of the day-night doubleheader. Acuna homered on the first pitch of the game because, boy, Acuna loves to beat the crap out of the Marlins. Olsen also his 24th homer of the season. Vaughn Grissom also hit his 2nd homer. Acuna was pulled after his 4th at-bat and 7th precautionarily to rest his knee. He's been dealing with soreness over the past week. Plus, the Mets series is coming up, and they want to get Acuna fresh for that. Acuna's home run, that was his 26th career leadoff home run, 10 of which have come on the first pitch, and 4 of those of which came against the Marlins. To say Ronald loves to hit the Marlins is definitely not an understatement. And shockingly, Joe, he didn't get hit in this game. I was waiting for it to happen. Because I don't trust Mattingly to not hold a grudge.
You said it. Ronald loves to hit the Marlins, and the Marlins love to hit him. Was the next thing I was going to say. So
true. So damn true. Ian Anderson actually had a good start, continuing this seesaw. Good start, bad start, good start, bad start, good start, bad start. 5 hits, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts over 6. He's still going back down to AAA. He was called up as the 27th man for the doubleheader.
Right.
They want to give him focus for the stretch run. Game 4, this was one the Braves almost lost. They had to come from behind to win this in the 9th. Tanner Scott, the Marlins closer, has made things very interesting in the 9th inning for the Marlins this year. Definitely not the guy you want closing most of the time. Michael Harris opened the 9th with a huge game-tying home run. He smashed out the left center over the second end of the second deck. For some reason, Mattingly left Scott in for the entire inning. He blew through 36 pitches. I don't know what the hell Mattingly was thinking of leaving him in. I don't know if the Marlins maybe blew through their whole pen throughout the series and didn't want to use anybody else, but not a great outing for Scott. That was his 5th blown save of the season, actually. And of those 36 pitches, he had 3 walks and all 3 earned runs in the inning. So the Marlins, Joe, they've been held to 3 runs or less in their last 15 games. They tied the 1979 Cubs for the longest stretch in the majors of 3 runs or less. Damn, that's a hell of a streak to tie. I'm just checking scores right now. Miami won 3-0. So while they picked up a win, they did not break the streak of 3 runs or less. So that's now up to 16 games, and they have now officially taken over the major league record for that. So congratulations, I guess. Now, I should point out that they're without their 3 best bats. Jazz Chisholm Jr. has been hurt. Jorge Soler has been hurt. Avisail Garcia has been hurt. So I understand they're not fielding a full team, and without that full team, especially without Chisholm, that team is definitely very one-dimensional in what it can do. The only other note I had, a great outing for Bryce Elder. He was called up to make that start. He struck out 10 in 7 innings, 3 hits, 2 walks. So honestly, I would have been happy with a split or 3 out of 4. I'm ecstatic with a completely perfect week last week for Atlanta. I definitely was not expecting that, especially those 2-game miniseries. It's such a crap shot what you're going to see. So, yeah, no complaints from me.
Can't imagine you have any complaints there, man. Jeez.
Yeah, no end of the show. Pissed off at the world rant from me this week. I'll pass on that. All right, so looking at hot players for this week, Joe, my picks are as followed. I've got Alex Bregman of the Astros, 474, 601 line, and 19 at-bats. He had 8 runs, 3 homers, 8 RBIs, 9 hits, and a double, 6 walks, no strikeouts. I had Joey Meneses of the Nationals, 550, 591, 1.150 slugging, 20 at-bats, 6 runs, 4 homers, 6 RBIs, 11 hits, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts. I had Manny Machado, who absolutely tore the cover off the baseball this week, 429, 448, 821, 28 at-bats, 7 runs, 2 homers, but 10 RBIs, 12 singles, 5 doubles, walk, 4 strikeouts. And then my other guy, I'm going to go with Michael Harris this week. 22 at-bats, 364, 417, 818. 7 runs scored, the 2 homers, 5 RBIs, a stolen base, 8 hits, 4 doubles, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts. Although that wasn't even the highest stolen base for the week, but I'm going to let you do your Moneyball players of the week to see if you mention this guy. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, one of the guys I was looking at was Bregman. He had a heck of a week. Again, Aaron Judge, his number is 231, 545, 692. 3 runs, 3 hits. Struck out 6 times, 2 home runs, 2 RBIs. So the numbers aren't crazy good, but he got walked 8 times. So
that's nuts.
Nowhere near, I think, what Winker last week was 12. It was insane. Yeah, I mean, he had a great week from that standpoint. Christian Walker of the Diamondbacks had a good week. Did you say him? I couldn't.
No, I did not mention him.
Yeah, Christian
actually,
Walker.
He wasn't the Diamondback I was actually thinking of, but go ahead.
He had a good week, 476, 520, 762. 5 runs, 10 hits, 3 doubles, a homer, 6 RBIs, 3 walks, 2 strikeouts. So a good week.
Yeah.
And I had Machado, of course, but Gimenez from Cleveland had those 3 steals. I mean, that's awesome.
I also had another guy for you to consider for Moneyball, Jake McCarthy, 286, 400, 333, 21 at-bats, 4 runs scored, 5 RBIs, 4 stolen bases, 6 hits, a double, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts.
Yeah, that's getting it done. I had not seen him, but that's finding a way to get on base. So,
exactly.
And be productive on the base pass. So I would say it's him and Bregman had the best weeks for me, Moneyball wise.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, moving on to the pitchers. We'll start with my top pitcher of the past week was Zach Gallen of the Diamondbacks. In 2 starts, he went 2-0, 14 innings, 14 strikeouts, ERA of 0, whip of .57, 5 hits, 3 walks. Not bad. a team I didn't think I would throw a pitcher up for this year, Kansas City Royals, Brady Singer, 2 starts, 2-0, 13 and a third, 13 strikeouts, .68 ERA, .68 whip, 1 earned run, 6 walks, 3 hits, 1 home run allowed. I also had Chris Bassett of the Mets. He went 2-0, 13 innings, 13 strikeouts, an ERA of 0, a whip of 1.15, 12 hits allowed, 3 walks. And also, you can't take a perfect game in the ninth and not get mentioned. Drew Rasmussen, 8 and a third, 7 strikeouts, 1-0 record, 1.08 ERA, a .12 whip, which that's insane to even think about. 1 earned run, 1 hit, no walks. Any other starters for you first?
I had Bieber from Cleveland, 14 innings, 12 hits, 2 runs, 14 strikeouts. And Michael Kopech from the White Sox didn't get the win, but he went 6 innings, no hits, no runs, 3 walks, 11 strikeouts, and a .5 whip. So a good productive week for them. Part of the reason that they were able to go on a bit of a run here last week.
Yeah. So who's your Moneyball player of the week?
Moneyball wise, Bregman, I think.
I'm sorry, not Moneyball. You're adulting reliever of the week. Jesus, Andrew.
The adulting reliever of the week. I came down to 2, and I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna give you the runner up first. Appeared in 4 games, 3 for 3 in save opportunities, 4 innings pitched, 2 hits, 4 walks, 4 strikeouts, a 1.5 whip. And then that would be your closer, Kenley Jansen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's nice to see Jansen finally have a good week. He's been a little rocky here and there.
Yeah. So, and then the adulting reliever of the week for me is Sir Anthony Dominguez from the Phillies. 3 games, 2 for 2 save opportunities, 3 innings, 1 hit, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts. That .67 whip. Going back between these two guys, that the walk number and the whip were kind of the deciding factor here.
Yeah, absolutely. What really sucks is he's probably not going to be the full-time closer now that they have Roberts. Because he's been just, as a closer, he has been damn near unhittable. I've been really, really impressed when they've been bringing him in as a closer, which again, as Jason would say, props for having a manager who actually is willing to go with the hot hand. So
yeah. Sometimes that makes all the difference in the world.
All right, Joe, my hot teams for the week. I've got the Guardians, the Astros, the Angels, surprisingly, the Mets, the Braves, the Cubs, the Dodgers, and the Diamondbacks. And the Dodgers just had a very long win streak snapped. They were at 12. Yeah.
12 straight. Yeah.
So that was only just snapped. Damn, that's a nice streak. It's not as good as 14, but it's still a damn nice streak.
Yeah, and the Dodgers, they're still the taste of the National League for sure. It'll be interesting to see. That was news that was breaking before we went on tonight. Walker Buehler will be having season-ending surgery on his elbow, so they've got a ton of pitching talent making rehab starts here in AAA right now. That most of that talent is super, super good. I think Graterol might be down there rehabbing. Mays is down there rehabbing, and he's looking really good for them. So they have reloaded from last year and in years past, so they continue to get better. It seems like.
Yeah, it's nuts when you have a guy like Buehler going down for the rest of the year, and it doesn't even phase that damn team one bit. That's just nuts.
I mean, that's the crazy thing that we kept waiting for the Mets to kind of go down that, have a really down stretch of the year, and their starting pitching has stepped up out, with DeGrom being hurt most of the year and Scherzer being out for 2 months. I mean, I don't think anybody, I think Logan included, would have expected the Mets to have held on this long.
No.
I mean, they are a different club this year. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely crazy. Did you have any other teams you wanted to toss on the hot team list, or anybody you wanted to kick off?
No, I'm feeling nice this week. You know,
I
the
actually
Cubs
checked the
going
past week
4-2.
records this time for
Yeah,
once.
the Cubs going 4-2 was a nice surprise, winning the Field of Dreams game, making it so I could actually watch that whole game instead of shutting it off halfway through. Um, was a great week for them. Um, the Yankees continue to be one of the best teams in the game. The
Yeah, but this past week they weren't.
Now this week they weren't, but um, that shocking number we threw into the group chat where the Red Sox finally beat a team in their division in a series this year.
I can't believe that I was shocked that hadn't happened yet. I really, I mean, I know the Red Sox have been down, but I was shocked that they hadn't done that once because, taking 2 out of 3 once when the Orioles were down early this year, you would have thought that's when it would have happened, but no.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens with some of these guys, but it's the White Sox have continued to stay close. They need a solid run, and now that they don't have TA and they've got some issues outside of some of their pitching. I mean, you got to hope that they can pull it together. It sounded like quotes from Andrew Vaughn over the weekend was that there was a certain fire in a dugout that they hadn't seen most of the year. Fortunately for them, the AL Central is weak enough that you could not have fire for 3/4 of the year and still be close.
It's nuts. That's absolutely nuts. All right, so looking at the week coming up, Atlanta, like I said earlier, it's a meat grinder this week, man. No day off. They're playing straight through still. 4 versus the Mets starting tonight. Strider versus Carrasco. Morton versus Walker. Odorizzi versus Scherzer. And Wright versus DeGrom. And then after that, because apparently playing the Mets wasn't tough enough, we need to make this a little bit tougher. They will be playing the Astros, and it will be TBD versus McCullers. That's supposed to be Max Fried's spot. He may be off the concussion IL by that point. Strider versus Javier, and Morton versus Urquidy. So, yeah, that's going to be a rough week. The Cubbies are playing a weird 3 teams in a week. 3 at the Nats, Stroman versus Gray, Steele versus Corbin, Smiley versus Abbott. 1 at the Orioles, which I'm assuming is a makeup game, which at least, Washington, Baltimore is basically almost the city anyway.
Yeah.
Sampson versus Watkins for that game. And then they come home for the Brewers, Thompson versus Ashby, Stroman versus Peralta, Steele versus Woodruff. And then the Phillies start the week real easy, and then it gets pretty damn tough pretty quick. They've got the Reds in Cincinnati, Syndergaard versus Minor, Gibson versus Zook, and Suarez versus Lodolo. So that's probably the only game where the Phillies should be worried is that last one. And then they come home for their last 4 games of the year versus the Mets. And that's going to be Nola versus Bassett, Phillies TBD versus Carrasco for doubleheader game 1. Nobody has announced any starters for doubleheader game 2, and then Wheeler versus Walker in the 4th and final game on Sunday. So the Phillies definitely end with a much rougher schedule than they start the week. That's for sure. And for the record, the Braves are up 5-0 right now in the top of the 5th. There was a rain delay in that one. So at least they're starting. I'm not going to say anything else because the 9th inning's not done yet, but they're starting better than the last series against the Mets started, to say the least. So this week, Jesus, I want to know who the hell wrote the schedule for this week for Atlanta, because that just sucks to get both the Mets and the Astros in the same week. Thank God all these games are at home. I'm really curious to see how the Braves match up with the Astros with all the moves they've made. We didn't have to face McCullers in the World Series last year. He got hurt in the ALCS, so he was a non-factor. Of course, we lost Morton in game 1 very early on, so we lost our, at the time, I guess, ace. our postseason ace because we didn't trust Fried enough to be the ace initially, which was dumb. Thankfully, he proved that wrong. So, after last week, I'd love to see us at least a split. After last week, I want to see Atlanta say, no. We're not gonna let you run away with this division. We're gonna fight you tooth and nail all the way to the end. So that's personally, that's my hope, is that the Braves take 3 of 4, but they need to split to keep the division race where it's at. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean it's a big week for them with that series. Can they, stay in contention a bit, and keep that race from being a runaway? I think that's definitely important. With with the Cubs, it's anytime you can play the Brewers and beat the Brewers is good, and it's at home. So, um, you know, hopefully that's a good series for the Cubs. They're on a bit of a run here, getting young guys looks and getting young guys opportunities. So, see what happens there. The Phillies need to, are they playing 5 against the Mets?
No, 4.
They've got to try to hopefully get a split here, maybe 3 or 4, to keep themselves in it, and keep themselves locked into the wild card.
They do have one advantage. They're not going to face DeGrom or Scherzer because DeGrom and Scherzer are starting the last 2 games of the Braves series.
Right, which is excellent. I look forward to that report and recap next week.
I do.
Yeah, I think Philly needs to continue doing what they've been doing. They need to get quality starts, and they need to, in the case of Aaron Nola, not waste them. So
that wasn't Nola's fault.
No, I understood it's not Nola's fault, but
but when your pitcher only gives up 1 run against the freaking Mets in that lineup, give him a run back.
I mean, it wasn't Nola's fault, but in the NLCS, fans like us will still blame the offense, but that one game is a big deal. So
absolutely,
you got to find a way to generate runs and see what you can do if you're Philly. So,
all right, Joe. Any other series you're keeping an eye on this week?
Yeah, the Orioles have the Blue Jays early in the week. I want to see if they can continue to stay where they are as far as the Orioles are concerned. The White Sox have the Astros to begin the week, so can they not fall asleep at the wheel and continue on some of the momentum from the sweep over the weekend? That's in the first half of the week. Second half of the week, I'm going to be following Cubs Brewers a good bit, and Mets Braves, and
second half of the week is Mets Phillies.
Right, Mets Phillies. Sorry,
that's all right.
Following Mets.
I just don't want 2 straight series against the Mets. I feel like that's a little unfair.
Yeah, I'm gonna follow Mets Phillies a good bit, and Cubs Brewers, and the White Sox have the Guardians, which again, can they beat up their own division? I mean, they need to start doing that. So, and the Orioles have the Red Sox in the weekend too. So can the Orioles continue to put just enough games together to make this really, really fun?
Well, and let's remember the Guardians are now first place in the AL Central, so the White Sox need to take these games. And with the Orioles and the Blue Jays playing each other, let's remember the Orioles are only a game and a half behind the Rays for that last wild card spot in the AL, and the Blue Jays are only a game ahead of the Rays at the top spot in the AL. So it's, things are not quite as tight as they seem right now, or not quite as locked up in the AL. The NL, it's not locked up yet, but as Jason liked to point out last week that the Phillies were creeping up on the Braves, Jason, the Phillies are still 6 or 5.5 games behind Atlanta for that, where Atlanta's in the top wild card spot. So it's cute that you think that they might make a run at taking Atlanta out of the top of the wild card, but I don't see it happening, even with the ridiculous difficulty of the Braves schedule versus the Phillies.
I mean,
it's still going to be out.
Honestly, they don't need even to do that. I mean, that would be fun. Would certainly make this show more entertaining. If the Philly is able to do that, for much to the chagrin of our gracious host. But they just need to do just enough. I think Milwaukee didn't do themselves any favors to get better at the deadline. Same thing with San Francisco. The biggest thing with San Diego is, have they done enough to live without Tatis that it's gonna? At this point, they have. Can those guys hold up through the end of the year?
Yeah, we'll see. It's
we were talking about a 3-team race in the NL West at the All-Star break last year, and then the Padres just fell off the planet. So,
what's to prevent that this year? I mean,
right.
Getting Juan Soto is great, but do you want to hear something absolutely nuts about the NL West right now? The Dodgers are up 16 and a half games at this point, so that race is basically over. The Dodgers also have the best run differential in baseball at plus 247. The Padres are only at plus 47. The Padres' run differential is exactly 200 runs less than the Dodgers. How does that happen between first and second place? That's insane.
Because the rest of that division is garbage.
Well, yeah, there is that.
Colorado and Arizona are in your division. That doesn't help much.
Yeah, that's so true.
I mean, it's not as bad as the NL Central, but
yeah. Let's face it, the NL East is very top heavy this year too, with the Mets, Braves, and Phillies. I mean, the Marlins, they were pretty good for a while, but injuries have just wrecked that team to making it a one-dimensional offense. It's pretty easy to pitch around. And, well, as I've said repeatedly on the show, and we'll continue to say repeatedly on the show, the Nationals are a double-A club at best at this point. They're not worthy of being called a Major League Baseball club.
Yep.
All right, guys, you can find our audio recordings on Anchor, Spotify, Breaker, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, Amazon Music, and Spreaker. You can see us live on our YouTube channel, on Facebook Live, and on Twitter. You can find our merchandise at www.redbubble.com/people/DDAB-podcast. Follow us on our Facebook page, facebook.com/dollardogsandbeer. On our Twitter page at DDAB_podcast. You can find us on Twitter. I'm at PyroLord314. Jason's at JRicker300. And Joe is at JoltonJoe35. We are presented by Dark Arrow Podcast, LLC, and we are sponsored by the fantastic Whiskey and Blade Barbershop in Lidditz. May your dogs always cost $1. May your beer always be cold. Have a good night, everyone.